Hello and welcome. Best not to put all your eggs in one basket. Drop that basket and you'll lose all your eggs. Well, that's a well-known saying. In 2010, the entire board of Australian Sundance Resources Mining Company were on a Casa C212 aircraft that crashed in West Africa, killing all 11 on board. This was devastating for Sundance and led to many companies re-evaluating the wisdom of key personnel travelling together. Imagine though, if this was wartime and your key people were together in the one aircraft which crashed. On August the 13th, 1940, Australia was at war and was in trouble. Ahead lay the bombing of Darwin and the occupation of parts of New Guinea by Imperial Japan. Much of our fighting force had been sent to North Africa and Europe, leaving us very exposed. It was now that a flight was commissioned to take the heart of the country's cabinet from Melbourne to Canberra using a converted Lockheed Hudson bomber. What could go wrong? Andrew Tink wrote Air Disaster Canberra and tells how a plane crash brought down a government. The Hudson was flown by pilot Flight Lieutenant Robert Hitchcock, who had 100 hours experience on type. This is what a Hudson looks like.
Behind me is a Lockheed Hudson bomber, although it was never intended to be a Lockheed Hudson bomber. It's probably evident from looking at this aircraft that it was originally designed as an airliner. It has windows all the way along the side.
Along with the 4 RAAF crew on board, there were Brigadier Geoffrey Austin Street, Minister for the Army and Repatriation, a former World War I veteran; James Valentine Fairbairn, Minister for Air and Civil Aviation, an accomplished aviator who served with the Royal Flying Corps during World War I; Sir Henry Summer Gullett, Vice President of the Executive Council and Minister in charge of Scientific and Industrial Research. He had been Australia's official war correspondent for the AIF in Palestine in 1918. General Sir Cyril Brudenell Bingham White, Chief of the General Staff. With a background of service with the Australian Forces in South Africa in 1902-1903, White served as Chief of Staff to Generals Bridges and Birdwood during World War I. He returned to the Army as Chief of the General Staff in 1940. Lieutenant Colonel Francis Thornwaite, Staff Officer to General White, an officer in the Australian Army from 1910. Thornwaite was awarded the Distinguished Service Order and Military Cross for his service during World War I. Richard Edwin Elford. Elford, who had a good knowledge of aeronautics, was Fairbairn's private secretary. Pilot Robert Hitchcock had aviation in his blood. His father was Henry Hitchcock, who along with Keith Anderson set out to find the Southern Cross flown by Charles Kingston Smith and Charles Ulm that was somewhere near Wyndham in Western Australia and was overdue. They didn't find Kingston Smith, but they perished in the Tanami Desert with no radio, no axe, no shovel, or sufficient water to survive. This became known as the Coffee Royale affair. Prime Minister Menzies was deeply affected by the Canberra crash, both personally and politically. He said, "This was a dreadful calamity," he told the House of Representatives the next day. In the wake of the loss of 3 senior cabinet ministers, Menzies was forced to reshuffle his ministry. The cabinet was permanently weakened by their loss, and that was a factor undermining Menzies' position in the following months. Although the United Australia Party won the election, Menzies found that he had lost the support of his party and consequently resigned as Prime Minister. The Australian Labor Party won office and renowned wartime leader John Curtin became Prime Minister. At the crash site, Flying Officer Wilson was one of the first to arrive on scene. To this day, the lack of forensic photos and identity of the bodies and where they were found has given rise to speculation. A World War I wound to Fairbairn's upper arm did show that he was in the cockpit, but where? A week before the accident, Fairbairn told an Adelaide headmaster, "Hudson bombers have a rather nasty stalling characteristic. From what I have been told, a pilot coming into land can find himself suddenly and without warning in a machine that is no longer airborne, heading straight to the ground. Personally, I think it is only a matter of handling your throttles wisely." That's what he said. It seems Fairbairn pulled rank and Hitchcock foolishly handed over controls. Decades later, looking back at the accident, it seemed Fairbairn pulled rank and Hitchcock foolishly handed over control of the aircraft. Journalist Estelle Blackburn has said, "If Fairbairn was wrongly identified, then could he be buried in Hitchcock's place?" The descendants of Robert Hitchcock are considering testing the remains for DNA to find out the truth. Thank you for watching. Please comment, like and subscribe to promote content.